am so happy today to have with me a wonderful author. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Barbara, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Barbara Hinske. I'm a novelist. You may know me from my Rosemont series of women's fiction novels. Coming to Rosemont is the first in the series. I've also written The Christmas Club, a novella that was made into a Hallmark Channel Christmas movie for 2019 with Cameron Matheson and Elizabeth Mitchell. So maybe you saw that if you're a Hallmarkie. And I've recently published my first murder mystery, Deadly Parcel. I've got another one coming out, Final Circuit, in August. But the big news, or maybe September, I'm here today to talk about my most recent book, Guiding Emily, which is the first in the series.
All right. Well, Barbara, it's great. I know that we've talked on the phone before because I loved the Christmas Club. Absolutely love the Christmas Club, and with Christmas in July, I believe it's replayed already. I think, or it will be. I'm not. Okay.
It was on Sunday, and it's got 2 more airings. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I was already so excited for that movie because I love Cameron Matheson, and then I remember that we got connected because of that movie, and you actually got to go visit the set. I remember that.
Yeah.
We talked about that in our last interview. So just briefly with the Christmas Club now, since that's been re-airing, have people been like talking, like discovering you maybe for the first time or rediscovering you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, thank goodness for the Hallmark stuff. We were on location a year ago this week in Winnipeg during a heat wave in Winnipeg. I've been looking at the temperatures up there now, and it would have been lovely if it was the way it is now. But they've started filming again, Hallmark movies, Christmas movies in Winnipeg this week. And so my director is filming a new movie, and I was Facebooking back and forth with him, and he was on a Facebook Live that I did on Sunday with the Christmas Club, our movie, in the background. And so we chatted, and then some of the extras were on that. And so it's been just a wonderful little, Facebook reunion on all of that. And so the sales of the Christmas Club are up a little bit, and I'm hoping people are discovering it in the movie. And frankly, don't we all need as much happy, positive as we can get our hands on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't think of a better movie. I mean, that was truly a favorite of mine. I mean, I have lots of favorites from last year, but that was a favorite of mine, and I couldn't think of a better movie to really promote positivity and doing things for others, and the whole idea of you doing this random act of kindness and it coming back to you. I mean, you don't do it because you want that to happen, but you do it with the right motivation, and then it just comes back to you in ways that you never expected. And so I love that.
Well, and I think I want to give a shout out to you because who knew, I mean, you knew, but I didn't know until recently that you have this phenomenal trained voice, and you've been using it with these beautiful posts with you singing these lovely faith-filled inspirational songs. And it's just been such a gift to everybody. And it may look effortless, and maybe it is, but I don't think it is. I think it takes time and effort and planning to make it look so seamless. So kudos and thank you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. That's been something that I've been able to reconnect with during this time, and back to taking voice lessons, and it's been really exciting. And then I've had a friend, an actor friend, who's been very, very supportive and has helped me. The videos continue to get better because he's given me all these pointers on how on how to shoot them better, how to do this, and so it's been great. Yeah. So I'm glad that you've enjoyed them. I know I've heard that from many people, so that's been exciting to hear. So I am really excited. The next book I will be reading is Guiding Emily. I've gotten way behind.
Yeah.
just with everything that's happened, you'd think that you have all this time. You know, you think, oh, I'm going to be at home and locked down and I'm going to do all this. And then for some reason, it just doesn't happen. You sometimes you get to watching the news, which is always always a always a bad idea
Yeah.
from the news sometimes, and you get into that, and then I went through some times where I was really unmotivated, and so I got behind. But your book, Guiding Emily, I remember you told me about that when we had our last interview, and I'm so excited. So why don't you tell us about Guiding Emily a little bit?
Okay. Thank you for that. And I agree. This is a time when we all feel untethered for sure. And day-to-day tasks do take longer. At any rate, so Guiding Emily is a novel. It's a love story between Garth the guide dog, and he's on the cover, based upon a real-life guide dog whose name is Gnocchi. But anyway, Garth the guide dog and Emily Main, his handler, who loses her eyesight on her honeymoon, and it's the tale of their journey to find each other.
Okay, and I seem to remember that you did some pretty great research for this particular book.
I was so fortunate to have so many avenues open to me. The idea for the book came to me when I was touring the Foundation for Blind Children in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm donating half of my proceeds to the Foundation for Blind Children. So I've lived down the street from them for literally 30 years and never been in their facility. And I happened to meet the development director, and he said, you know, you and your husband come take a tour. You've got to see this place. So we did. Oh, and I was so moved as I was observing what was going on in those classrooms. This is a facility, a school for the blind, that takes children with multiple disabilities, and many children who are blind are also born with other disabilities. And so the foundation is one of the few schools that will treat everyone. No one gets turned away. And they have children up to age 105, so they service a large adult population. I was in tears by the time we were done, and I turned to Steve and said, what do you need? What can I do to help? And he said, well, we need to raise awareness within the sighted community of the isolation that the blind feel. And we're a nonprofit, we need money. So I said, okay, this is great. I'm a novelist, and a novelist can do both of those things. A novel can do both of those things, raise awareness and raise money. So I got started, and so I told them, I'm going to donate half my proceeds to you. They were unfailingly kind in opening their doors to me. That's how I met Gnocchi, because one of the staff members there she's a senior counselor, and her guide dog is Gnocchi. By the way, interesting aside, this woman is also my personal dog trainer now. And she shows dogs. She shows dogs like at Westminster, and she's blind, and she's the best dog trainer I have ever had. So it goes to show. So I did, she got a group of her newly blind adults in her group therapy session, signed waivers and let me come in and attend their therapy. And it was so eye-opening to hear about the panic attacks and the anxiety and what you go through as an adult who loses their sight. One woman had gone in for an emergency C-section. Her baby did not make it, and she lost her eyesight. She woke up blind. I mean, try and put your mind around that. The foundation gave me white cane training, which was, they put goggles on you that replicate a certain kind of blindness. I had a little pinprick of vision left. And, there I am taking the training, and we're outside with the cane. So I know, A, I am sighted. B, I can take those goggles off. Mm-hmm. I've got a guy, an instructor with me. Nothing's going to happen to me. And I can tell you, when we stepped outside and I'm along a street, I had a full-blown panic attack. It was so interesting. So that's the blind side of research. And I met with the doctors and talked to the doctors about all of this. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to get better acquainted with the dog side of my book, because half of the, or not half, but there are a number of chapters written from Garth's point of view, because obviously there's a lot of heavy stuff going on in this book. It would be a really draggy down kind of read, and I write everything uplifting and encouraging. So Garth provides some lightness. So I was lucky enough to get introduced to Guide Dogs for the Blind in California, and went over and spent 3 days behind the scenes there, learning about their processes, which was so helpful. And all along the way, the guide dog community and the visually, there's your daughter, and the visually impaired community have been overwhelmingly supportive. So I'm sorry, a long-winded answer, but that's what I got to do.
No, that's fine. Yes, yeah. For those of you who probably noticed, yeah, my daughter stuck her head out. She's kind of like, what's going on? My daughter is 17. She's fine. She probably just got up. So that's the joys of this time period too. Right? You get
Yeah.
these little interruptions at home. But yeah, no, that's great. No, I'm glad you gave that whole story. That's fantastic, because I think that a lot of us who don't have these disabilities forget. I will be honest, I forget about the people who have these disabilities, as far as, they're blind. And I mean, I'm having interactions now. I've got somebody in a course with me who is deaf, and she reads lips. It's unbelievable. She is this unbelievable lip reader. So like, she never has to have it interpreted, and it's just,
wow.
And it's like, why? But you take those things for granted, that when you don't have them. And so I'm really grateful that you had you were able to be exposed to all that, and now you've got a book that's really shining the light on this part of our community that we sometimes forget about. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. I felt like I was given the idea for the book when I feel divinely, I know everybody doesn't believe in this, but I do. I feel divinely guided. The idea for the book dropped into my lap during that tour. I wrote it. I mean, there was significant research for this book, and between conception and finishing the book was 6 months. That's incredibly fast. Everything fell into place. I did all the research. Doors were open. The cover took half an hour to design. It's been astounding. One thing, if I can mention one thing, when I was at Guide Dogs for the Blind, I attended a puppy graduation ceremony where everybody should go, but pack every piece of Kleenex you can get your hands on, because you will be sobbing. It's where the puppy raisers come, and the handlers who are getting the guide dogs and have been working with their dog for 2 weeks. It's kind of a ceremony where they get all of them together and transfer that dog. I was, the one I attended, there was a family of 10 who drove from Texas to California. Okay, that's huge. To attend this ceremony where the dog that they had raised for 15 months was officially becoming the dog of this man who was probably in his mid-50s. I think he worked for Apple. At any rate, he had a high job in a tech giant in San Francisco, and was very polished when it was his turn to speak. And he said, this broke my heart. He said, well, when he was looking forward to going to the office, because now maybe he would have more friends, because people would come to talk to him to see his dog. I thought, that speaks to this isolation piece. I worked in a law firm where there was a man, a law department of a corporation. There was a blind man in another department. He and I didn't interface, but we were on the same floor. And if I saw him in the hallway, I would just kind of get out of his way, thinking I just don't want to disturb him. Well, that's the wrong thing to do. That made him feel isolated. Of course he could hear me there. I should have said, hey, John, good morning, it's Barb from the legal department. I didn't know. Now I know, and I want people to be aware of that. Also, Guide Dogs from the Blind, I said, what do you need? Since they were being so helpful. And they said, we need people to raise awareness, which I do in my book, of the serious threats posed to legitimate service dogs by phony service dogs, where people take out these untrained dogs with, these internet purchased vests. And then the poorly trained dog will get in a fight with a service dog, which basically puts this service dog out of commission. Generally, that sort of interaction ruins a service dog. It costs $50,000 to train a service dog. Plus, can you imagine you're blind, you're out there relying on your dog, and all of a sudden they're out of commission? That's hideous. Hideous. So
that is, well, that really is amazing. I didn't know that was going on either. There's all these things. I love getting to learn all these new things. That's always what I enjoy. And so now you mentioned that this is the first book in a series. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes, I wrote it because I love reading and writing series, and I wrote it so that if the reactions, if people wanted more, I could give them more. I've already got some really great ideas for what'll happen going forward, and the reviews have been stunning. So I will write.
That's good.
I will write a second book. One of the nice things about the review too is that this book has been so warmly welcomed by the visually impaired community, and I didn't want them to be victimized, patronized, any of that. I wanted this to be honoring, even though it's her journey. You go into despair, denial, depression, and then back up. One of the ophthalmologists I know who helped me with this book, whose practice is solely the visually impaired, and was pretty lukewarm about the idea of the book, to be honest with you, has read it and is crazy about it. I'm so proud of that. And is now recommending it as a required reading for all of her patients because it accurately portrays. So I'm proud of that, because the last thing I wanted to do was upset them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So do you think that the possibility would exist for this book to be made into a movie at some point? Do you think that's
I sure do. I think and I wrote it, now that I know a little more about the process, to be a cinematic kind of book. I'm, who knows? It is being looked at. Of course, now it's a little tough time, but I'm not going to worry about that. I think the character of Emily is deep enough and broad enough that there are a lot of actresses that could play that part. Emma Stone is a local gal to me, and I would love for it to get into her hands, for her to read it, but there's a whole long list of people who could play these different characters. And I do think it's going to be adapted for the screen, and I don't think it's going to be a long time coming. I also wonder if we couldn't just cast a blind woman as protagonist. And I know that there are associations of blind actors, and now that I've been around so many blind people, that you would never in a million years know that they're blind. I'm thinking, well, why not? Yeah. So I don't know, but I do think this is in God's hands. So it's going to be, what better hands could it be in?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm right with you. I love it when when studios are able to cast people who have that particular disability, whatever it may be. I think that is, because there's not enough of that. I get really, really excited when I see someone who's been cast, had a disability, and then they're actually playing somebody who has that disability. I mean, how awesome is that? I would, in this time period when they're wanting so much diversity, you know, and there's a
Yeah.
real push for that. Well, let's not forget, yes, I am all for diversity. I love diversity, but let's not forget those who are disabled, who have whatever the disability might be, because sometimes you don't mean to, but sometimes you don't think about them sometimes. I mean, and so I'm right with you. Well, you know, I'm going to definitely get the word out, and hopefully people will catch that vision, because that would be great.
I like that. We'll hold that thought in prayer, and
That's right.
I thank you for that. That's really good.
Definitely. Now, you did mention, while I have you here, you mentioned that you've recently published your first murder mystery as well.
Yes.
Oh, now I'm a huge mystery fan. Like, really, I love the mysteries, and so and that's good. That's also a series too. Is that what you were saying?
No, well, I decided this Deadly Parcel is a standalone.
Okay.
But I decided I needed to tell my readers that you're not in Rosemont anymore. So I'm calling it book 1 in my Who's There collection.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
The similarities are, I mean, you know, it's a murder mystery, so that's different. But one of the reviewers said there's no blood and guts, which there aren't. I hate that. And he said there's pervasive niceness, other than there is a very bad guy. Well, so I think it's still an affirming read, but I do think I have the main characters taking the Lord's name in vain as a couple of once, and I've gotten taken to task on reviews on that. So if that is going to be a non-starter for someone, then they shouldn't pick it up, because I don't want anybody to be upset.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I understand that. And actually, I appreciate that you said that, because I'm always one of those reviewers that I will go through. I will try to think of anything that might be a problem for my readers.
Yes,
and so I appreciate that you said that. It's not really something that keeps me away from reading books, but I know it can be something. Yeah. So that's
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But it does sound like, I mean, so now what inspired you to write a murder mystery? Was this something you always wanted to do?
You know, I always wanted to do it, and at the time I wrote it, I thought I had concluded the Rosemont series. I'd always thought that would be a 5-book series and I would move on, and I did. And then I had so many requests for more books in the Rosemont series, and I started working on it because I didn't want it to be a lame extension where it's, oh, she keeps writing these books. It had to have some vibrancy to it and some motion. You can't just have the same characters treading the same thing all the time. And so I worked with my writing coach, and I think we came up with some new avenues and some new things that are interesting to me and evidently have been interesting to the readers, because the 6th book, and now I'm working on the 7th book, have done well. So it was a little hiatus. I'll tell you, it's harder to write a murder mystery just because you have to be, as you well know, you have to know where you're going with all of it. It's easy to paint yourself in a corner, and people who read mysteries are the crossword puzzle doers, and they'll catch you out on any little thing. So you got to be on your game. They're a lot of work.
Oh yeah. I have ideas for mysteries. I've not actually tried to write them, but I realized as I began thinking through the plot, it's like, wow, you know, you've really got to be smart. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Yeah. And so you're going to be coming out with another mystery? Is that what you said? Do you have another mystery?
Yeah, I had written 2. So the second one, Final Circuit, I think is either August or beginning of September. And I like the protagonist in this one very, very much. The main character is really interesting to me. She's smart. She has a cleft palate, another person that wasn't repaired accurately, and people discount her because of the way she speaks. But she's smart. Her hobby, I always like quirky things like this because I like to research them. So her hobby is restoring vintage toasters, and her knowledge helps her at the end of the book. But anyway, so I don't know. There's some fun stuff in that book, and there's of course a little bit of romance in both of them.
Right, exactly. Oh, that's great. That's you certainly write in a good variety of genres now. You've really branched out here. That's exciting to see that. So,
Yeah.
So it's kind of something for everyone is almost, as is, are you planning to write in other genres still?
No, I think between murder mystery and the solid general fiction, women's fiction,
Right.
my brand, if I have a brand, is encouraging, inspiring, uplifting, comforting.
Right.
Nothing too dark. I don't see the world through a dark lens, and I don't want to put it out there. I've got plenty to keep me busy, just right there in that wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. So during this lockdown, this we've been experiencing,
Yeah.
what have you been doing? I mean, I'm sure you've been writing. I mean, I have no doubt. But what have you been doing to keep yourself sane during this time?
And you're absolutely right. I mean, one has to decide to make that choice. I'm going to do something to keep myself sane, because in the beginning, I was watching way too much news and was feeling very untethered. And frankly, I found just procuring things, ordering stuff online and grocery, that took an enormous amount of time and follow-up. So I do limit the amount of time I spend looking at the news. I do it every day. I keep myself informed in my writing, my social media, but I'm involving my hobbies more. I'm walking my dogs more, which is good for me. I always said when I retired a year ago to write full time that I would be cooking more. That didn't happen until COVID, and I had to. And now I'm cooking more. I was baking more, putting on some weight. The baking is on lockdown now until I lose the weight. Playing my piano, doing puzzles, and I'm trying to learn calligraphy. I always wanted to. I've branched out. I think brush lettering is going to be easier. So I've got all the supplies and set up where I can leave them set up and it's not in anybody's way. So I'm doing those things and being happy doing them. And, but even though there's really nowhere I want or need to go, I just find it truthfully, a little unsettling to realize, I really just shouldn't be, I can't really jump in the car and go someplace. I shouldn't, for my good and for everyone else's. So I'm not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I totally hear you. I mean, it was the same way with us. I've got my daughter, who of course that affected her school, and then my parents, and I was the one who was telling my parents, like, you're not going out. Like, I had to keep telling my mom, you're not going out. I will do this. You don't need to go out. I mean, thankfully, our area has not really been affected hardly at all, which has been a good thing. I mean, our state has been affected, Washington State. Yeah. I mean, of course, Washington State is famous for this because that's where the first official case, I know, but that was a little ways from us. So it wasn't, and it hasn't really affected our area per se, but there is something, I totally get what you're saying. There's something about being told you have to stay home. It's like we were already staying home a lot. It wasn't like we go out a lot. We live in the country, but it was that idea of you actually are not supposed to go out. You need to stay home. You're supposed to stay home. It's like, okay. And it is unsettling. I agree with you very much.
Well, and I live in an urban area, and crazy. The GPS, as GPS is often wrong, put my address as the location of a free COVID testing site.
Oh,
And if you've seen on the news, Arizona has 10 and 12-hour waits. So got up one morning and the cars were backed. I mean, we couldn't even get out of our driveway. So finally put out a sign saying in English and Spanish, no COVID testing. And it kind of cleared up. But every once in a while, they haven't updated the GPS, and I don't know how to get that to happen. Every once in a while, people are driving around. I feel sorry for them. They're trying to line up. They're ill. So it's just a little bit of craziness.
Oh goodness. Well, that
Yeah.
I cannot even imagine. Oh my. Well.
Yeah.
Well.
Shocking.
Yeah. All right. So we've got Guiding Emily is out. Of course, they can look up your Rosemont series. They can look up the Christmas Club and what was the name of your murder mystery that's out? No, I forgot.
Deadly Parcel.
Okay.
And if I can just mention on Guiding Emily, it's available from a website called Bookshare for the visually impaired. They have memberships, but it is available, and it can be checked out of the Foundation for Blind Children in Braille.
Oh.
And it will be coming out in Audible as well, but so that's something people should know.
That's great. And then you have another murder mystery coming out, and you're currently working on your next book in the Rosemont series. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be back editing today. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And well, wow. That is there. Did we miss anything? Was there anything that I missed?
No, you're so thorough.
Okay.
This has been lovely to catch up with you.
Oh my goodness.
I follow you. You're all over Instagram and social media, so I know what you're up to. But this has been the highlight of my week. This is nice.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, I think it'll be great. The readers, my readers will enjoy getting to actually see you, and I'm hearing more and more they like seeing me on video, and so it's like, okay, so we're going to do some more of that, and so I appreciate that you wanted to do this. I appreciate that, because sometimes writers don't want to be on video. Sometimes.
Well, you do have to do your hair and makeup, such as it is. So
yeah, it's. Oh, you look great. I mean, you're all set up. Okay, you look great. So, all right. Well, I will be sure to put all of your links and everything in the description, and so people will be able to follow you, because you're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I know I see, and you post very regularly. You are one of the writers. Yes. Not every writer does, but I notice you post very regularly. So and you post a lot of fun.
I'm trying to be on it.
Yeah, and you post a lot of fun things. You don't just post business, but you post fun things. They'll be like, oh, I like this. I'll steal that and share that elsewhere, because it's
please.
Yeah,
it's all about positivity.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you, Barbara, so much, and I will look forward to sharing this soon. And so I think have a great rest of your week, and we will talk again soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Keep the songs, keep the music coming. It's a blessing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I definitely.
Thanks so much.
Take care. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.